For more on the situation in Syria, we turn to ITN's Alex Thompson, who visited the site of the massacre yesterday. I spoke to him a short while ago by phone. He's reporting from the town of Homs, scene of some of the heaviest fighting of the Syrian uprising. Alex Thompson, welcome. I understand that you were able to accompany a UN observer group into some of the scenes of the worst fighting. Tell us what you saw and where you were.
I went in with the UN and Red Crescent convoy into the southern area of Hula yesterday. Within moments of arriving, we were beckoned out by some soldiers. We thought we were under arrest. It was a confused picture. Then a firefight ensued, so we took cover in a building, and I discovered that close to where we'd taken cover, there was a blanket on the ground. I pulled the blanket off, and it revealed a man way past fighting age, I would say at least 75, 80 years old, who'd been shot in the head, gunshot wound at the head, which I'm not a pathologist, but it looks like the reason of death for him. I released the blanket, giving him whatever dignity I could in that situation, and went into the next room essentially to escape the gunfire, and there was the body of us. Another blanket was laid out on the floor. Under that, I found the body of a little girl, probably 5 or 6 years old, no more than that, and she had a gunshot wound in her chest. This is only a small part of what has happened in Hula, and these bodies will not yet have been discovered by the United Nations.
Over the past several weeks, the fighting has moved from place to place. Why does it shift to a place like Hula? Is the army taking the battle to places it perceives as being anti-government?
Well, I can only tell you, and this came from an exclusive interview I did with the deputy leader of the United Nations mission to Syria inside Hula yesterday. He said, look, Alex, we have this from two sources. Both sources are in entirely different places geographically. They don't know each other. They haven't met each other. And they say the same thing. This is not the United Nations' opinion or view, but it's what they were told about what happened, which is simply this, that last Friday, after prayers, about 12:30 in the afternoon, the Syrian army began a 2-hour barrage. They shelled the town of Hula. That was followed mid-afternoon by groups of armed men, Shahid they call them, meaning thugs, armed militia, if you like, dressed in civilian clothing. They went building to building, they went house to house, they went family to family, and they slaughtered people as they did so. It is the corroborated views of people in the town and to the east from the rebels in Rastan, which is a town nearby, that this went on until approximately 2 in the morning on Saturday.
And as you mentioned, so few of them of fighting age. It seems to you, it appears, that they don't mind targeting civilians, that's not what this is about, fighting another armed force.
You may say that, but the pattern of modern warfare, tragically, is that more and more it is people in the middle, proportionately, who are being, in fact, targeted. Now, the rebels do not escape blame here. It is a fact of the war here that is going on, that the rebels use civilian areas to fight their war in this war, as they did, indeed, in many occasions in Libya as well, for instance. So they are using civilian areas. They are not, I guess, deliberately using civilians as shields, but they are fighting in areas where there are civilians. So that's a fact. Now, in reply to that, clearly a conventional army fighting in conventional terms is using weapons, sometimes small arms, but sometimes heavy weapons in those areas. If you're going to do that as a means of warfare, you are without question going to kill people. But what happened after prayers on Friday seems quite obviously to have been a deliberate war crime, in the sense that civilians were deliberately targeted and they were deliberately massacred. Martin Griffith, the deputy head of the UN mission, told me yesterday he personally had recovered yesterday the body of a woman and 4 children lying in a house.
Is this battle taking on a sectarian cast, Alex?
Well, there is a great sectarian, obviously there's a huge sectarian sweep to this war, and it is a civil war between Sunni and between Shia sections of the populations, and indeed the Alawite section of the population from which the ruling caste, if you like, the Assad dynasty, comes from. That's true, but what is happening is overwhelmingly, in terms of the rebel forces, the uprising, simply a move to remove the regime. They want the Assad regime removed. Now, the Russian foreign minister has said only today that, so far as Russia is concerned, the great backers, of course, of this country, the only game in town for the Russians is the Assad plan, the Assad peace plan, which essentially safeguards the Assad position, so far as the rebels see it. That is absolutely unacceptable to the uprising. And it's partly that, and it's partly, I have to say, the visit of Kofi Annan to Damascus today, which ironically has, if anything, provoked an upsurge in violence rather than the maintenance of what is laughingly known as a ceasefire here.
Alex Thompson from ITM joining us from Homs, Syria. Alex, good to talk to you. Stay safe.
Thank you very much. Good night.
For more on Syria and the threat to the wider region from the fighting there, visit us online, where we have a report from Time Magazine's Rania Abu Zaid in Beirut.